Guys, today I am going to do a little something different. I'm going to try to show you one whole project at one time. Stick around. So what I have to do today, this is our laundry room. Dryer, washer, laundry tub, and then over here we have a storage closet. And then on the other side is just the bathroom. There's a full bath there. But what happened before, right here, there was two cabinets, one here and one over here. Right here, one just fell off the wall. So that kind of prompted us to redo the project. How it started was we found two new cabinets at a local liquidation warehouse around us, and we bought them. They were white cabinets. There used to be tan or brown cabinets here. And so, as with many projects, it just kind of snowballed. We couldn't put white cabinets on the tan wall. So we decided to paint. We painted gray, and it just everything kind of got out of hand from there. The base cove is tan. The outlets and the switches are tan. We took the old cabinets down. We painted the walls. I'm not going to show you the wall painting. If you're interested in seeing how I paint a wall, I'll put a link up here to a video I did a year or so ago on Home and Garden for Mere Mortals when we were doing that project. Just shows you the basics of painting. And I'm just going to show you everything that I'm doing in this room to change it basically from a tan palette to this gray palette. I don't necessarily intend this to be a how-to, just what I'm doing to get this all taken care of.
Now the first thing I did, I just made this little plywood doohickey thing here just to support the laundry tub because I wanted to take the legs off and paint them. Now as it turns out, this was totally unnecessary because I ended up just taking the whole laundry tub off anyway because I painted the tile in the back that you'll see later. So then they were metal legs. They had a little rust around the bottoms. So I just gave them a quick once over with the sander just to kind of get the loose stuff off and, you know, rough them up a little bit to get them ready for paint. You know, ran over at the outside, ran over the inside. There's really nothing to it. I use a sander, but you could do it by hand. And then whenever I'm doing something like this, after I'm done, I just wipe everything down with a rag with some paint thinner on it just to clean everything up, get all the loose stuff off, and then I'm ready for primer and paint pretty much. So a quick coat of spray primer. Depending on the paint you use, there's some paints that you don't even have to prime. You know, they're paint and primer in one, but I just went over it real quick with a light coat of primer, and then really by the time I got done, it was ready to go. So while that was drying, then I went back and I just took off the old vinyl base cove. I just got a putty knife back. I mean, obviously I did this out of order. I painted the room and then realized that I had to fix everything. If I would have done this the right way, I would have ripped this molding off before I painted. It made it a lot easier because, as you can see, it created a lot of crap and dust that I had to go around and vacuum up and clean up before I could move on to the next step, which was going back and touching up the wall paint. So I didn't have to worry about, you know, lines and whatnot that would have shown up if I didn't get the new vinyl base cove on in the exactly right spot. So the way I did this project, it just amounted to a lot of bouncing back and forth. So now that I'm done that, the legs were dry from the primer, so I could go back and paint the top coat. And I'm using my favorite hammered paint to paint these, which, I mean, we really like it. It turns out nice. I think it actually is better if you use the spray for this hammered, but we got the brush and it works out fine. You just the trick to this stuff is you just can't do too much with it. You kind of get it on, spread it out, and leave it alone. So now that that's drying, I jump back inside to work on the electrical. So I have all ivory switches, plugs, wall covers that I have to switch out to white. So the first thing I did was obviously shut the power off, and then it's just a matter of taking the switches and outlets out. And you really, if you pay attention, you really don't have to have too much electrical knowledge, so to speak. Just, just make note of where you're taking the wires off, what terminals, and putting them on the new terminals the same way. But before I start any project, even though I know I've turned the power off, I'm gonna check it with my tester just to be sure. So that's all I'm doing. I'm taking the wires off, making sure I know their orientation, what terminals they came off of, putting them where I can remember, and then just putting everything back the same way. So in a matter of minutes, I've just changed out the ivory switches, for white switches. And it really wasn't as difficult as you would think. But if you're hesitant about this kind of project, certainly, hire an electrician to come in and do it for you. So it was the same thing with the plug. Ivory plug out, white plug in. I'm not going to go, that's why I sped this up a little bit, because it was the same process. The power was still off, but I did check it. Make sure I had my orientation of all my wires and terminals, taking off the old one, putting on the new one. And here, the good thing is I changed, the old plug was not a GFI circuit plug, but I put in a GFI because you need that anytime I think it's like 18 inches around anything water, you need the GFI, but check your local code. But if it's in a wet environment, always go with a GFI. So bouncing around again, now that the wall paint's dry, I can put the new vinyl cove base on, and we have this gray here. So I did not throw out the old pieces that I took off, because as you can see, I'm using them for my pattern for the new pieces. I just lined it up, cut it with a knife. This stuff cuts really easy. You can cut it with a knife. I mean, you could cut it with even a good heavy pair of scissors if you wanted, but you get a much better result, I think, with a straight edge and a razor. And then this stuff requires a little bit of glue, so I put the glue on the back, just a big giant caulk gun, spread it out. So once you have the glue on, you just kind of have to press it onto the wall, fit it in there. It's some little finagling, especially around the inside corners, the outside corners. You have to sometimes cut some relief cuts or some scores to make the vinyl cove base do what you want it to do. And then you have to hold it. So I rigged up all kind of different configurations of blocks and boards to hold everything in place. And next comes the fun part, putting on the new cabinets that started this whole project. You can see right there that I actually reinforced the back. I put another panel in the back because the way my studs lined up, I only have one stud that I can fasten this to the wall with. So it was right in the center, so I had to reinforce the center on the back so I could have something to drill through without blowing out the back of the cabinet. I used a little cardboard spacer. I taped it up there so I didn't have to worry about measuring and plumbing. And then that level is actually clamped onto the other cabinet that I've already installed. That way I'm sure that I have my two cabinets at the same level. And then I also kind of pre-marked where I wanted my holes, so I knew exactly where I had to drill my holes for my screws. I didn't have to worry about missing the stud or anything else like that. And then I just lined it up, checked for plumb, checked for level, checked for square, and then I'm going to drill some pilot holes and then run some cabinet screws through there. And then once I do that, this is actually a little bit of an involved process, because once I put I think I put 3 screws. I don't recall if I put 3 screws in the studs or into the stud, or 2 screws. I guess we'll find out here in a minute. Yeah, I put 3 screws along the middle. And then I actually, in the 4 corners, and I know this is overkill, but in the 4 corners, I drilled more holes, and then I actually took the cabinet off the wall, put some anchors in those holes, rehung the cabinet, put the screws back in the stud, and then ran some screws in the corners for the anchors. And then it's just putting the cabinet doors on. And what I did not know until I actually hung them up right here, I was like, whoa, these are easy closed cabinets. How cool was that? And then you just have to line it up. So here is when I discovered I needed to take the sink off the wall anyway. We saw that everything was gray and white, and we had this tan tile backsplash for the laundry tub, which looked kind of dumb. And I was thinking, now what am I going to do with this? Do we just leave it? Do we take them off? And then it dawned on me, I am a big fan of Flex Seal. So I was like, you know what? I scraped all the gunk off the tiles, scrubbed it, cleaned it. Well, actually, Lisa cleaned it and scrubbed it really good. And then I just went over it with Flex Seal. I started out brushing. I brushed in all the grout lines, and I was just going to brush the whole thing, but then I realized that's just crazy. So I went and I got myself a roller. I brushed it on, and then I rolled it on. I actually did a couple of coats, let it dry in between, and then put one good solid coat on it, rolled it out, made it nice and even, and let it dry. I think I let it dry for a good 2 days before I put everything back together. And then after it was 2 days, actually I think this might be the next day, I just went with a razor and I made sure I broke all my seams for my tape, peeled off the tape, and I could not have been more pleased with the result that this gave me. So there you have it, guys. A quick weekend's work. Well, not a quick weekend. Actually, it was a long weekend. I worked on this laundry I started Thursday night. I painted Thursday night and got everything done and everything put back in Sunday morning. So it took a little bit of time, but it just goes to show you how easily you can update an entire room with simple things: paint, molding, electrical outlets. A lot of times people don't realize that an electrical outlet is a simple update that changes the look of a room. I still have a couple things to do. I gotta put pulls on the handles. I still have to paint the windows and the couple doors that are in here. But other than that, it's good. Now, by no means is this a step-by-step how-to tutorial. This is actually not the way you should have done it. If I would have thought about it, I would have done it differently. For one thing, I would have torn off all the vinyl cove base before I painted. That way I could get right down to the floor and not have to worry about doing any of the touch-ups that I needed as I was putting the cove base on. Another thing that it was like last minute that we did was this tile backsplash. We got done the whole room, and this tile was still like tan. This laundry sink we updated as best we can. We're not changing the laundry sink. We repainted the legs, cleaned the outside. The inside's kind of grubby, but it's a slop sink, so what are you going to do? But anyway, when we saw the whole room and then saw the tan tile, it just didn't look right. So as you saw, I was a little hesitant about using the Flex Seal on the tile, but it shows it sticks, it's waterproof. So we're going to see how it holds up, and just the white with the gray and everything white and gray
Looks phenomenal. So I hope you got something out of this. If anything, the main thing I wanted to tell you about this project was that with a couple cabinets, this cabinet and this cabinet, some outlets, it's real simple to update a small room for a little bit of money and a little bit of time. Like I said, it all started, we got a deal on these cabinets, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But we're thrilled that we took on the project, because this room is just a fresh room that's going to last us for a long time. I hope this project helped you realize that you can take on a similar project in your own home and get these kind of results and update an area and give it new life in very little time. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the HomeCraft Chronicles. There's something here for everybody. Home improvement, DIY, lawn and garden, happy hour, lifestyle, anything I can think of to help you get the most out of your home and enjoy living in your home. And then make sure you hit the bell, so whenever I post something new, you'll be notified. You can catch it right away. So until I see you next time, remember, take care of yourself and your home. See you soon.